Good afternoon, good morning, or good evening. This is the 6th video of this Java series. In this video, I'll show you how the if statement works and some of the logic statements for it. The if statement is the beginning of understanding how a program works. It can be thought of as a sort of switch. So let's type one out. First, we need to set a variable. Let's set an array variable int x equals 10. Okay? And we'll type out the if statement. If open parentheses x equals 10, closing parentheses, open curly brackets, enter, and a closing curly brackets. And then inside of those curly brackets, we'll just do a system.out.println and say wow. Okay. So, if x equals 10, print this. Now, you don't always have to have an else statement, but you can. And an else statement will catch anything else that happens. So if you have multiple if statements or multiple if else's and none of them trigger, this is the one that will trigger. And we'll just give it a simple nope. So since x equals 10, this first branch should execute. And we'll go ahead and run that. And we get our wow. Now let's change it to, let's say 5, and run it again. And then we get the nope. So the first one didn't trigger and went straight to the else. All right. So now I'm going to copy that and I'm going to drop that down, paste another else in there. And this is called the Elsif. And let's say we want to do an else if x equals 5. Okay. So now we have an if x equals 10, else if x equals 5. And we'll just say meh. And we'll run that again. And it should trigger this second branch, which it does. So an else if can be added to an if statement to give it multiple cases. So you can have multiple branches in your if tree. Alright, now some of the other logic operators besides just the equals, there's also the less than or equal to. So since 5 is less than or equal to 10, we'll run that again, and that first branch will run. Notice how it didn't get to the second branch because it already tripped the first one. And once it starts down one path, it can't go back and check the other ones. Okay? So we have the less than or equal to, and then there's also the greater than or equal to. Run that again. It should trigger the second one, which is meh. But if we set this to 12, run it again, then we get the first branch. Okay, so we have the less than or equal to, or the greater than or equal to. You can also have the greater than. So let's set this to, let's set it to 10, and we'll change this one to if x is less than 5. So it should trigger this one because we're not including 10 in the greater than. So we'll run that again, and we get the nope. Okay, and then there's also less than, the not equal, which is also kind of another catch-all. So you don't really need an else if you have a not equal to as well, because it will also check for other other answers if you're only using one variable. But you can also include multiple checks in one logic statement. But let's just go through this not equal first. So we'll say if x is not equal to 5, then trigger. And it should do the meh because it's going to trigger this one first before it even gets to the else. Okay? So let's add another variable into the mix. Let's say int y equals 6. Okay? Now, I said that you can do multiple logic statements in one if clause. So we can do an or. So if x does not equal 5, and let's say y is less than 9, just for whatever. Okay? So we have a y is less than 9 and an x is not equal to 5. And we run that. So both of these statements are true, and we get the map. Okay? So think of this as an on and an on, or a 1 and a 1. Now let's change this to a greater than 9. And let's set this one to x is less than 5. So if we have anything less than 5 or anything greater than 9, this will trigger. So we'll run that, and it should be the nope, which is what we get. Okay? Because y is actually 6. 6 is not greater than 9, and then the 10 is not less than 5. But let's change that. Let's change that to greater than 5. And we'll run it again. And we get the math. So that means if either one of these switches gets activated, if any one of these is true, it's going to print out this line. So you can have this one off and this one on, or this one on and this one off, or you can have both of them on. Okay? Then there's also the and clause, which will basically check both of them, and both of them either have to be on, well, both of them will have to be correct in order for this line of code to be completed. So let's say we have y is greater than 9, okay, and 10 is greater than 5. So 6 is greater. So this one is false and this one is true. So if we run this, we should get the nope, which is what we get. Okay? So let's change this to a less than 9, and then we will get the map, because both of these will then be correct. Okay? And that's pretty much covers all the logic statements. All right. Thanks for watching. Feel free to leave any comments or questions below, and I'll see you in the next video.